And I think we're ready. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Mr. Chair, whenever you're ready.
All right, so my clock says 7:31. Let's call the order. Get a roll call, Maria.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Bryce? She's not available today. Ms. Dickinson?
Present.
Ms. Clement?
Present.
Mr. Kapler? He's not available today. Ms. Shaw?
Present.
And Mr. Stevie?
Here.
So we have 4 DRB members present. That makes quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right. Can I get a motion for approval of the minutes of last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
I will second that motion. Carol Clement.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote on that. Ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye for me.
Do we hear any nays?
Any nays? Hearing none. Say that motion passed. Item 3, Sunshine Mile District overview. Maria, give us a little heads up on what that is.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me get to the presentation. So this is the overview of the Sunshine Mile District overlay zone that was recently adopted last year. Time flies. And so I wanted to give this overview to the DRB so you start seeing in general terms what the Sunshine Mile is about, since you're going to be involved in the review of projects that go through major design review within the district that are utilizing the Sunshine Mile as a zoning tool for development or redevelopment. So, you know, the Sunshine Mile District, the SMD as we're calling it, now is part of the Unified Development Code. Like I mentioned, it's a tool that provides property owners certain flexibilities for developing or redeveloping their land in exchange for certain design criteria established by the SMD. These are the boundaries of the Sunshine Mile. As you can see, the boundaries are very uneven. And that was based on all the feedback received and also by the technical analysis done. You know, the objective was to try to target those pieces of property that may present some opportunity for redevelopment or development according to the criteria established by the Sunshine Mile. Later in this presentation, I will go through the different sub-districts. You see the different colors. So we'll go more in detail. And please feel free to ask me any question as I'm going along this presentation, please. The Sunshine Mile was put together in collaboration with the city of Tucson, Rio Nuevo district, and a group of design professionals, and of course the community. So the outreach efforts for the Sunshine Mile took place over a period of about 2.5 years. So through those outreach efforts, the community was able to define not only the goals for the Sunshine Mile District, but also, more specific design criteria that now is included in the document. So also there were several public hearings, as I understand, as it went through the review process with the zoning examiner and the mayor and council. So the Sunshine Mile was adopted by the mayor and council on last September 2021. In the agenda materials, if you go to the DRB's webpage, I provided a link to the Sunshine Mile document, to the ordinance itself, and to this presentation. Work. So now going into more detail about the Sunshine Mile, what are the goals that we're talking about? It's the goals that you see through the other recent adopted overlay districts that are optional for property owners in Tucson. So we're talking about, achieving goals of sustainability for new development that is transit oriented. So the design of projects need to, demonstrate that, they are friendly to the pedestrians and to the transit users and other users of other alternate modes of transportation. Another goal is the more diverse mix of uses along the corridor and within the corridor, and with the aim of making it a more vital, corridor and surrounding area. Another goal that was established was the, enhance the character of the Sunshine Mile. The Sunshine Mile right now by itself has, a lot of character, but so, the Sunshine Mile District is really trying to emphasize, that's important, and the design criteria reflect that. And lastly, it's the preservation of historic resources. And so there's certain incentives in the Sunshine Mile that I will go through them in a moment, but one of them is, making sure that historic properties in the corridor are not delisted, which brings me to the fact that the Sunshine Mile District was now listed as a National Historic District in 2020. So it's something to keep in mind here. So what tools, does the Sunshine Mile provide? So when a property owner comes in and is proposing a project, they, most likely, if they're trying to use the SMD, then most likely the reason is that they cannot meet the requirements per the UDC as it is established now under the zoning classification that they have right now. So, they usually that means, the most common flexibility they're seeking from the UDC is the reduction of motor vehicle parking spaces, modifications to the required building heights, setbacks, modifications to the refuse collection areas, how they are designed, landscaping and screening, and even the change of use, which is very important because right now the UDC, for instance, does not allow residential in industrial zones. But the Sunshine Mile does where it's allowed, right? And so considering that this is an old historic area of town, we find several spaces that are zone industrial that have the possibility, the potential for being redeveloped as something else other than industrial. the incentives that I was talking about a little while ago, that the Sunshine Mile provides, that are available for developers, include affordable housing, mobility hubs, and structured parking. So in terms of affordable housing, you know, projects with a minimum of 10 dwelling units, or projects adding at least 10 dwelling units on the subject site, can be eligible for density relief, density as required per the UDC. You know, there are conditions though. So one of the conditions is that at least 15% of the total number of residential units in a project are to be affordable. And there's timeframes in terms of, you know, the term of the affordability part of residential units and condominiums. If I remember correctly, was 50 years from the time the certificate of occupancy issued for the multifamily residential units. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I think it was 30 years for condominium units from the time the COO is issued. You know, the Sunshine Mile defines mobility hubs, but basically a mobility hub are the locations where the different modes of transportation could come together, you know, in a certain area or on a certain site. So we're talking about sites that are located near or at transit stops, or near or at concentration of employment, concentration of higher density residential shopping. So the idea for these sites, if they want to get some relief from the requirements of the UDC by using the Sunshine Mile, you know, the objective is for them to provide more integrated design of the project with the availability of the different transportation modes besides the car. Any questions till now? I'm feeling I'm talking too much. So
Maria,
usually I don't talk much.
Maria, I have a question. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this.
Mhm.
So this flexibility and zoning and what? In my mind's eye, I'm asking the question. So residential, let's say condominiums, could be approved for placement on top of, let's say, parking structures. Is it going to allow that kind of diversity, whatever you call it?
I'm not sure exactly if they can be on top or the parking structure can be in the back. I guess it depends on what the proposal is and where it's located within the Sunshine Mile. So those are details
Okay.
that we will need to take a look closely. And we always encourage the applicant, even before they start preparing plans, to go ahead and be in touch with us so we can have a general informative conversation and then go through our pre-sub meetings where we would have the design professional present, and if needed, the historic preservation officer and other core reviewers that will need to take a look at their proposal. Any other question, Carol?
Hey, Carol, I think one of the big things that I heard in this, or that from what I understand of it, also in the residential end, is the ability of residential uses on industrial zoned areas. If you look at that map, the reason it's so jagged looking is there are some areas south of Broadway and around some of the underutilized areas that used to be storage facilities or machine shops and stuff like that that are kind of south of Broadway. kind of over by where Roma is, and TUSD has a big space down there, that those areas right now are not. They're zoned industrial, so they're off limits for residential. So some of this, the intent of this is to open those areas up to be able to be denser. So you'll be able to use that use residential on an industrial spot.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. The
So
overlay is kind of cool that way.
Yeah.
yes, yes. So for those projects that are trying to use the SMD for UDC requirements relief, then they need to abide by the criteria established by the Sunshine Mile District. So that criteria includes, streetscape design and open space, architectural design, like I mentioned, being transit-oriented development. So in the streetscape design, and don't quote me in this because I'm not that familiar yet with the Sunshine Mile District, but of course, we're talking about components of urban furniture and landscaping. And since I have two landscape architects here, let me elaborate a little bit about the landscaping. So, of course, the Sunshine Mile District includes provisions that all landscaping is to be 100% desert adapted plant species. Another, of course, is shade for pedestrians, along the sidewalks, along any type of circulation path within the site. Water features, something interesting that is now included here in the Sunshine Mile. Water features are only permitted if they utilize water, reclaimed water, or if they're connected with some type of active water harvesting system. So that was nice to see. The environmental design criteria included in the Sunshine Mile. There's a list of, I think, 21 or so criteria available to applicants. And so a project needs to include at least 10 of those environmental conscious design practices. Of course, they can include more. So, for example, if they're using reclaimed water, that's one point. If they're adaptive reusing an existing historic structure, that's another point. If they provide shade for at least, excuse me, 70% of parking areas, that's another point. And of course, in terms of architectural design, we have the LEED standards. Let's see, help me here, Grace. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So, if they obtain LEED certification, that's another goal for them to meet these criteria. Access, there's a certain number of feet that they need to be within. Transit stuff, that would be another point that they can accumulate. So it's very interesting to see that took a lot of back and forth, right? Not only with the community, but also with staff, trying to come out with the best way to show the different design criteria. And I have to say, different City of Tucson departments were heavily involved with Rio Nuevo in trying to define this criteria, and that included not only PDSD, but also the Department of Transportation and Mobility and the Housing and Community Development departments, as we have that affordable housing component. So let me, go ahead.
Maria, can I ask the question about the LEED? Is there a will there be a requirement to meet a minimum bronze standard of LEED? for
I
this?
believe the minimum, if they want to use it as a way to gain their points for that environmentally conscious design criteria, I believe the minimum is silver.
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
don't quote me on that. That's what I remember right now
Okay.
for this from the Sunshine Mile.
But that's,
So-
it's not a requirement. It's only if they want to gain a point, but they have to gain how many points to,
A minimum of 10.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. And just
Go
to
ahead, Cor.
add, so actually, so there's the environmentally conscious design practices where you have to get the 10 points, like Maria mentioned. And actually, if you do LEED silver, then you don't need to go through our point system that's in this overlay. You just are, you're considered to be meeting the environmentally conscious requirements.
So that automatically,
Right.
that's it, they gain their 10 points. Okay.
Yeah. For LEED silver. Mm-hmm.
So, of course, not every area within the Sunshine Mile district is the same. So, as you know, the conversations with the community were taking place, these different sub-districts were established, and different criteria for developing within these districts was established. So I'm gonna go from west to east in the Sunshine Mile district. So here we have what we call the Euclid Park sub-district, which is the one closest to downtown. So this one, when you read through the criteria, you can tell, that the objective is to create a very well mixed use types for development and different urban densities, and this one district is divided into two sub-districts or sub areas. So as you go through the Sunshine Mile document, you see the different criteria for each one of them. But basically, for instance, you get zero setbacks, on this sub-district that you can develop with. So I won't go through the specific criteria. You have the document. Feel free to read through them. Let me go to the next. The Bungalow sub-district. That's the next one over. So the Bungalow. Go ahead.
I used to live close to that district that you just showed, and I know some residents who are next to that are concerned about these 12-story towers going up. So I wondered, is there anything in the overlay about blocking views or the shade that these buildings are gonna produce for people, who live right next to it, not in the district, but the one next to it. So I wonder, is there any shade studies or things like view studies developers have to do to show the effect on the neighborhoods around them?
Susanna, what I see in the Sunshine Mile are not those specific design criteria, but there's massing. There's massing, standards. So if you are next to single-family residence, the objective is not to have, let's say, a 5-story building right next to them. There's gotta be some massing scaling down towards the single-family residences. But I don't recall the requirement of view sheds or shade studies. Corin, do you recall something about that?
Is a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to check. I mean, there are some shade requirements similar to what's in the Rio Nuevo area, where a certain amount of pedestrian area should be shaded. And then, but what materials are required to demonstrate that?
This is the opposite in a way. You may be putting a house in shade, all the time, so you're blocking any of their sun, kind of solar rights.
Yeah, so you're talking about the shade of the building itself
Yeah, will cause a lot
blocking
of
sunshine.
change for that microclimate around it. You know, if you've got a massive density. So I just think, and the views too, you know, a lot of residents really appreciate views of the mountains or whatever. So I just wonder, I think that has been overlooked in these plans a little bit, which I think is going to be something that comes up with neighborhoods that are close to these developments.
So I think what you're saying, Susanna, is maybe handled through some of the setback requirements where if you're adjacent to single family residential, there are different setback requirements for your building so that the massing is moved away from those residential uses.
But I guess,
And there's,
you know, sometimes when you just see something in plan, it looks like it works, but really they should be doing 3D massing diagrams showing the effect
Okay.
that these have on the areas around, because you can't tell, you know, and everyone has the capability of doing that easily, like they do the shade studies in the opposite direction, you know, to show they have shade.
yeah, I don't know if that was discussed during the public meetings that they held. Corinne, were you in any of those? Do you remember
Yeah,
hearing
that was
anything
definitely a
about that?
conversation.
Okay.
Especially the yeah, like view sheds and things like that. That was a big conversation. So yeah, that's where we landed. Why we landed on some of these heights, like the 4 stories in the park sub area. That was something that was like discussed considerably because the park sub area is closer to residential. So that's why, you know, you see the lower height there reflecting that. And then, yeah, that's how we also wound up with, you know, more setbacks adjacent to residential. So yeah, but I mean, look, considering what type of massing and materials we ask for can be sort of a project by project, and that's absolutely something we can consider and request for cases where that's applicable.
Okay, I'm gonna jump to the bungalow. So, you know, the criteria included in the Sunshine Mile reflects the fact that, you know, within this sub-district, you have a lot of small historic buildings that need to be preserved. This sub-district encourages the adaptive reuse of these structures into, you know, both business, you know, commercial and neighborhood related type of uses. So, you know, you will see certain setback requirements that reflect the historic nature within this sub-district, for instance, and of course, you know, the heights and the massing as well.
Question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
It's so basic. The adorable little bungalow houses that are already there, are they going to stay or are they going to be demoed?
The ones that have been identified as a contributor to the National Historic District, they cannot be demolished. If an applicant, you know, wants to demolish, they're welcome to do so if they want, but they cannot make use of the Sunshine Mile District as a zoning tool.
And the different colors of yellow and blue, do those within this bungalow sub-district, do those indicate ones that are historic and ones that are not?
The blue ones reflect the contributors within. Is this in the Sam Hughes? I forgot now, Corin.
Clay Flat Heights.
And the ones on the south.
Yeah.
And the ones on the south is from the other neighborhood to the south.
So everything in color yellow or blue is a contributor, a historic structure that, as Maria said, is would not be able to be demolished if the property owner wants to use the Sunshine Mile overlay. The yellow, that is a contributor to either the Sunshine Mile district or some other districts. For example, the school there that's not actually in the district is an individual contributor, I believe. And then the blue is mostly Rincon Heights neighborhood. So some of these are already contributors to the neighborhood district. So yeah, as Maria said, like the bungalows that Rio Nuevo just moved at Cherry and Broadway, those are all owned by Rio Nuevo and have just been relocated. So those are definitely protected, and then the rest would be protected through those provisions in the overlay.
Thank you.
But you're saying that they can knock them down if they don't want to be part of the.
Right.
Yeah, because that's their underlying rights. We can't change that. That's their underlying zoning. So this is not a locally designated district. This is a National Register district.
Right. So,
Or even
so
if they
knocking
don't,
one of those down outside of the Sunshine Mile district, the federal overlay on that makes that a very difficult process, like in general.
Well, it depends. I mean,
It-
yes, there would still be a process. We require architectural documentation, some other things, but
Right.
there's no federal process unless there's some sort of federal project in the area.
Right, unless the structure itself is federally listed, right?
Right.
so the Secretary of Interior standards kick in though whenever they're trying to do external modifications to or even, you know, in some cases, internal modifications to a historic structure. So when, you know, proposed modifications that are visible from the street are being proposed, we gotta make sure that they meet the Secretary of Interior standards so they don't delist the property from the historic district. I'm gonna jump to the Aquino Sub District, which also has 2 sub areas. That's right at the center of the Sunshine Mile. So there's opportunities, a lot of opportunities here to design a project that is transit-oriented development, including, you know, those mobility hubs criteria and high density and commercial development. So, you know, the standards that you find in the Sunshine Mile provide for opportunities for mixed-use development, and which include industrial and commercial spaces with a residential component in them, not currently permitted under the underlying zoning that these properties have. So the next is the mid-century subdistrict. So this one, you know, includes, if you're familiar with the Broadway Village, right, and the Chase Bank building, which, you know, are anchors on this last sub-district, you know, is the last one, you know, the Boundaries by Country Club. So this sub-district is, its main characteristic is that distinctive architectural features and specific commercial development patterns that include these 2 anchors that I'm talking about, the Broadway Village and the Chase Bank. So adaptive reuse is criteria is included in the Sunshine Mile for this sub-district. You know, design that is unique to these mid-century historic buildings, which include things like the narrow storefronts, smaller footprints for the development that facilitate the use for local businesses. And so it's something that the Sunshine Mile aims for these Sub District. So let's talk about the timeline. When somebody, like I mentioned before, when somebody is trying to propose a project in the Sunshine Mile, we encourage conversations with staff even before they go through the official pre-application submittal. They'll be learning about it. We're going to be learning about it more since we're just getting the first cases coming in. But you know, the applicant meets with staff and the co-reviewers, meaning the zoning reviewer, the transportation reviewer, fire, environmental services, engineering, all those co-reviewers that can heavily impact the way a project can be designed. And then, of course, staff from the special districts, meaning myself or somebody else replacing me, would be there. And then we would be bringing to that meeting the design professional, which is we have 3 contracted architects that to do this review these reviews in the Sunshine Mile and other special districts in town. So we would hold that meeting, give the applicant some feedback, and then they can request some additional meetings as they move forward. Before they can even apply for the to use, right, the Sunshine Mall, and we call that a design package. Before they can apply through the SMD design package, they need to go and hold a neighborhood meeting. So either there's 2 main review processes that applicants could be going through. If it's there's certain criteria for each one of them. So we had a major review and we had a minor review. If the applicant, if the project does not meet all the criteria for a major review, that may kick them to a minor review. And the difference is the minor review basically goes through just through the design professional and staff review. The major review, they need to be reviewed by if there's a historic review component by the Tucson, Pima County Historical Commission's Plan Review Subcommittee, the PRS, and the DRB. And that's when you come in. And in this case, it's not just called DRB, it's called the SMD DRB, because there's a little bit of a difference. It's not only going to be formed by the existing members of the DRB, but also the SMD DRB will include a representative of the neighborhood where the project is located, and also will include the design professional as part of the SMD DRB. So something to keep in mind. So if you know we hold a SMD DRB meeting, you will see other people besides the usual DRB members, you know, at the table. So they need to hold a neighborhood meeting, and also they need to go, the applicant needs to go, yeah.
Maria, I was just going to
Yeah.
say, do you anticipate that those new SMD DRB meetings are going to be at the same times as our DRB meetings?
That's a good question. I think it is. Corinne, is there flexibility to accommodate for the neighborhood
Yeah, I mean,
representative?
basically, it's the DRB. It's just that you would be hearing a Sunshine Mall case, so our intention is to keep them at the same time. I suppose if we got a request from a neighborhood representative that this time didn't work, we would work with you all to find a time that worked for everyone, that we could do it. But yeah, we definitely want to just keep it kind of within this regular schedule as much as possible.
Yeah. And I have a question. Earlier in your presentation of this sheet, You said that 3 architects have been retained to review the plans and not. Is there a landscape architect as part of that retained review board?
The design professional, it's just 3 registered design professionals, so from which one would be selected to be part of the review. But that's the SMD DRB thankfully includes landscape architects and are willing to provide feedback on the project. So that's when the SMD DRB would kick in with the landscape architects to help provide that feedback if a project goes through the major review process.
Well, I understood that the 3 architects are going to be retained fairly early on in this process, and therein
Just
lies
one of them.
okay,
Just one of them.
But therein lies the problem, because so often landscape architects aren't brought in to the process early enough, and therefore we get, things aren't as good as they could be. I would like to see a landscape architect also brought in earlier on in the project.
When we hold these pre-sub meetings, we have staff from PDSD at the table providing feedback on the proposal. And also when, even before they apply for the SMD, they need to go ahead and apply for the development package review. And they need to get at least the very first round of comments through the development package review. And that's when they get some feedback.
Yeah, the reality of the situation is that, yes, you also have architects that sit on the PDS, the internal review process, but you are weighting this project by hiring an architect to review early that's outside from the community. I would like to see a landscape architect also included in that, so it's not so weighted towards buildings, that there is a voice earlier on, early in the process, heard from a landscape architect.
Right now, the way the SMD overlay does not call for the landscape architect early on, but I'm sure as things start moving forward, there's gonna be not only the opportunity but the request to do some amendments to the overlay, because no ordinance is perfect. So
Right.
please do keep that in mind, Carol, when that opportunity comes, and if you can help us raise that concern.
Okay, all right.
Well, and just so you know, Kat, you probably know this, but that's just the typical way for all
Yes.
historic districts too, without the, that it's just the design professional brought in who's the architect. And I assume you're just using the 3 that you normally use, Maria. Is that the case?
Yeah, the 3 contracted architects is they are Corky Poster, Richard Fetom, and Rick Gonzalez. So we distribute their work evenly. So whoever is next to review a project, that's the one architect that we request does the review, unless there's a conflict of interest. If that specific architect has a conflict of interest on a specific project, then we move to the next architect and we request from him to do the review.
Early planning stages, it's best when you have a landscape architect. They look at things differently than architects.
Well, I just want to clarify a few things about the design professional position. So, as Maria said, it doesn't replace staff review, and we actually are about to hire a landscape architect, which we haven't had a registered landscape architect in our review staff. So that will be an addition. and we'll be doing a lot of those landscape reviews. I just want to clarify, design professional position is not unique to this process. It's a position mentioned in the UDC, and the design professional weighs in on a number of different projects that have design standards like this, the Sunshine Mile, but also the Infill Incentive District, really any district or type of project where there's certain design standards that need to be met. The design professional, we were sort of saying architect, but there's nothing that requires the design professional to be an architect. So landscape architects are welcome to apply for that position. It's an appointment made by mayor and council. So if we have landscape architects, that we're interested, we do an open call every few years. And the last time we did this was about 2 years ago. There's nothing that prohibits landscape architects from being part of our design professional sort of team.
When are the next open calls, Corin?
There's
for
nothing
somebody?
scheduled at this point.
Well, it'd be nice to not just have 3 males too.
But those are the applications we received, right, Corin? Those were the only 3 architects that requested
we can't
to
really
be.
comment on any procurement process or mayor and council appointments,
Yeah.
but yes, those are the 3 that mayor and council have appointed. Yes.
So moving on a little bit here. Once the applicant holds their pre-sub meeting, holds their neighborhood meeting, gets the first round of comments from the development package, then they can submit their SMD application, their design package. So that's reviewed by, again, like I mentioned before, by the design professional, by, if applicable, by the PRS, and if it's a major review, by the SMD DRB. And the PDST director makes the final decision, and that decision could be appealed to the mayor and council. We have processed our first Sunshine Mile District application, almost finished. The decision notice is about to be issued, but here's an example from that one case that we have received on, here's an example from that case on the report issued by the design professional when he takes a look at the application. So something different the DRB will see, from what you're used to seeing through the RNA reviews, is there's going to be a lot more criteria to be reviewed. So, the RNA right now basically is a couple of pages or less of design criteria that the DRB goes through when reviewing. The Sunshine Mile document, it's many pages. So, the design professional does go through each applicable criteria and issues a report on his review for that. The DRB, the way I see for instance, the ID Design Review Committee or the Main Gate District Design Review Committee handle their cases once they come to them for review. They rely a lot on the design professional review to go, see what he came up with after reviewing each type of criteria applicable for a project. And then they provide feedback at the meeting. But I've seen specific members of these different committees even dwelling deeper. So, there's different members that they dwell deeper into the review, and so there's that don't. But at least you will have, this baseline of review provided by the design professional. So you at these SMD DRB meetings, I don't see the DRB, SMD DRB going item by item throughout the entire meeting, because I think you will probably run out of time. And that's why the design professional issues this report. The SMD DRB can focus, on certain aspects of the project and ask questions and provide feedback.
And the design professional attends the meeting, right, Maria? So they would be there to respond to any questions and
not only attends, he's a member
right
of the SMD DRB, so he will have the ability to vote. And just keep in mind, before we even make it to the PRS or the SMD DRB, most likely there's going to be several iterations of reviews done by the design professional, because the applicant wants to seek a positive review at each step of the process before it reaches the PDSD director's desk for his decision. So, we work with the applicant, work with the design professional. If the design professional requests, certain things to be clarified or modified, the applicant is welcome to sit down with staff and the design professional and discuss and keep working on the project until, there's a positive recommendation from the design professional before moving to the review committees and the PRS and the SMD DRB. So it's very iterative. Sometimes I see the pain, honestly, for the applicant, but I think at the end, before we reach the PRS and the SMD DRB, we're gonna be seeing a better product. And anyway, any questions about the review?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, the design professional will be bringing this sheet to the meeting that we'll be seeing. I'm assuming he'll also be bringing plans, right? We will see be able to review actual plans with this kind of information.
Just like with the RNA reviews, the SMD DRB will be provided at least a week ahead of time. The materials, the application, the review by the design professional, any other materials that we think may help the SMD DRB in the review.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to put in here, this is a new resource the Department of Transportation has created, and I think it's pretty cool. But if you want to take a look at the existing, soon to be finished improvements along Broadway or any other roadway in the city, you can go to this website and take a look and gather a lot of information.
Oh, brother. Sorry.
It took forever.
Here we go. Oh my goodness, I'm looking down this and I am not seeing shaded sidewalks, healthy, livable walking communities. You will have shaded sidewalks. Why isn't that sidewalk, first intersection as I'm looking on my left side, why isn't that sidewalk pulled back away from the road, meandering through that tree area? Why is it a typical 3-foot offset from the curb? Why aren't we provided shaded sidewalks for healthy, walkable communities?
Careful, Carol. You have the design professional who did that project on the phone. Be careful.
I'm sorry. No. No.
But Carol, just keep in mind, as projects start moving forward in the Sunshine Mile, they will have the shade requirements for sidewalks and other, pedestrian pathways. So hopefully that shade requirement will be fulfilled once projects start developing or redeveloping using the Sunshine Mile District.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to seeing it.
And here's the links. They're also, I think, in the agenda materials. But there's a link to the actual document for the Sunshine Mile District. There's a little handout we prepare that abbreviates, the overall goals and incentives and criteria that needs to be met for projects in the Sunshine Mile District. Of course, PRO, so if you want to go to PRO and look for a project, there's a link. And of course, the link to our department's website. And that's all I have. Any more questions?
Yeah. What's the timeline to us seeing the first one?
It depends on the applicants, but what I can tell you right now, the ones that we expecting that will be going through the major review process would be the redevelopment of those 5 bungalows that were relocated further away from the roadway. So we've been talking to the applicant about that project, and the other project that we see coming in relatively soon, hopefully, would be the Zeeman's restaurant expansion. That I think it will need to go through the major review process, so it will come through you. But we haven't received a formal application yet. Any other question? Change.
Susanna, your hand's still up? Is that just a hangover, or are you?
Yes, sorry.
I wish those just went away when you clicked in after you put your hand up, but you always have to manually go back and turn them off.
Well, they do in Zoom. They go off after a few minutes.
Do we have any other agenda items? That was the only one for today, correct?
Yes, but we have the staff announcements, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB. I just would like to mention that as a follow-up from the last DRB meeting, when Ms. Clement was talking about the Tucson water well sites.
Thank you.
She reached out. Yeah, she reached out to staff and wanted to discuss further. So it is instead of just Ms. Clements discussing it with staff, it's more appropriate for staff to come to the DRB and have a presentation about the landscaping and water harvesting design criteria that we're requesting from projects through the development package review process, and also to maybe help the DRB clarify the purview when reviewing special exception applications, not just specific to Tucson water sites, but any project. So we're working with the landscape reviewer and Corin here, right, to put together a presentation and come back to the DRB with that information.
Now, thank you, Maria. I think we can improve the communication of what water harvesting can be in terms of documentation of it. So that, I think that's a great idea to have the staff come talk to us as a group.
Is that the only announcement, Maria?
That is the only announcement. I don't have a specific project lined up yet for DRB review for the next meeting.
Usually we'd have a call for audience. I wonder if we skipped past that earlier, but I'm not sure I see anyone on the phone that is not part of this meeting. Is there an general audience member who has a statement? Hearing none. I'd say we made it through the agenda for today.
And it is 8:31. This is a record.
8:31.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope this presentation helped. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Maria.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy your weekends.